Welcome back to Conversations on Reference. My name is Simon Aristeguieta. As I mentioned last week, in this new year, uh, Conversations on Reference is going to focus on the idea of developing a manual that can be used in small and medium-sized libraries to disseminate world narrative. Okay, let's explain what I mean by that. What I mean is a combination of reader advisory and multicultural dissemination. And I think the libraries are really in a unique position to be institutions that can provide materials from different cultures to the American audience. Okay, a library is an institution, as I have said many times when I'm teaching librarianship. In my opinion, is the most democratic institution in the U.S. The library system, the public library system, is a great, I would say, invention that has served the American public like any other institution for so many years. So I always envision that the American public and the American community, the American users, have the right to enjoy and learn about other cultures, cultures from the Middle East, from the Far East, from South America, Europe, Africa, from every part of the world. Okay, so that institution with that is managed, that is directed by professionals, by professionals librarianship, I think is the institution that can provide that opportunity for the American audiences to become familiar with world culture. Uh, so that to me is the main motivation and also because I'm a reference librarian, to select the American library, public library, as the institution to do that. Okay. Um, as I said also last week, this year will be focused on a small and medium-sized library. Why? Because I think like larger systems, they do already have the resources that small and medium-sized libraries don't have in terms of specialists, in terms of funding, etc., etc. So my idea is to develop a way in which smaller libraries can introduce that world culture, works of arts in terms of narrative in fiction and non-fiction and different genres to the American public. I think today we're going to talk about what reader's advisory means. And I think reader's advisory, of course, is one of the main functions of libraries. The idea is that a user, a member of the community, goes to the library and asks for a reader's advisory librarian or a reference librarian, and ask the librarian, what they want to read, what they are interested in. So the reader's advisory is trying to match the reader with a book, okay? Or, yeah, with a work of art. In this case, we're talking about narrative, we're talking about books. So it depends of what the reader is looking for. The librarian can recommend books to read. Also, of course, the librarian have to take into consideration several factors, such as, who is the reader. And the book chooses the reader, as one of the fathers of librarianship used to say. Not the reader chooses the book. So, but in this case, what I'm trying to do is to have to not only to act as a reader's advisory in a one-to-one relationship, but to act as to be able to develop and implement and deploy programs in the library, such as any other programs that we have in the library, such as, maybe the reading club, maybe the children's summer reading program, etc., etc. In this case, it will be open to, I think, to the public in general. It can be focused on children, or it can be focused on adults, etc. Uh, in order to do that, if we don't have the funding, like big systems may have, the professionals and the funding and the space and all of that to do that, we have to find ways in which small and medium-sized library can do that, can bridge that gap, so we can have the reader, the American public, reading texts from different cultures. Okay, the first thing that we have to do, and this is my opinion, when we're developing such a program, is to consult other librarians who may be expert on different cultures, or if we have if the library is located in a place where it has a university campus, we also must consider talking to professionals or professors who are in that campus, who can help us select resources. We can also use the WorldCat and other great resources that are available online to select readings. The other idea that I have is to be able to talk to the community and see, with the international people that we have in that community, to see where do they come from, and if they could be interested in advancing and developing a program along with the library to promote their literature. So if you have, if in the library that in the community that the library serve, you have communities that have a international origin, maybe they will be willing to give you to help the library to disseminate that literature. Then the problem, of course, is where to find those works of art, those works of narrative, those texts, and those books. And so the second part would be finding good translations. Okay, that's a must. We have to be able to find good translations. For that, I think we have to talk to, as I said, other professionals, other librarians who don't have to be in your physical location. As I have mentioned many times, the library is a universal institution, and we have associations with other libraries. And we can, of course, always we can connect with other libraries from the country where we're looking to disseminate that culture. So if we want to maybe have our readers in our community are interested in reading Spanish literature, well, it would be a great idea to connect with the libraries in Spain, okay? And with librarians there who can always be our reader advisory. So the librarian here in the U.S. can connect with somebody from Spain who will be advising on books that are good to disseminate in our small or medium-sized library. That would be one way. Also, they can generate ideas in terms of how to establish that program. All of the things is the ones that I'm trying to put in writing, to write a manual that we can use in libraries to generate that interest in reading other literatures. As I said, I love to read, but I'm ignorant in reading literature from many places, and that's what I'm trying to look for as a reader myself. because I think it's interesting, because I think it's enjoyable, because I think I'm going to learn about a lot about another culture, about another paradigms, another way of thinking. And I think that will make me I believe it will make me a better human being, being able to understand others. So I think it's a worthwhile endeavor that we as librarians can do. So so far I have talked to about reaching other experts, other librarians in your county or in your state or in your country, reaching out to librarians from the country we want to explore the literature, talking to university professors and specialists on that type of literature to see what ideas they have, and talking to members of the community. I think that's the key. Once we have put together that team, members of the community, other librarians, experts, and so on, then we can start designing our program, our I would call it universal narrative reading program. Of course, we have to work on other things like budgeting and things like that, and other things that we can do, not only in terms of reading, but other activities that will be multicultural and will help to enjoy more what we are reading. A big deal is, of course, to find a good translation with good quality, okay? And that's not always easy. And finding different formats, not only as printed books, because that will be costly, but also if we can find books online, if we can find audiobooks in English language, and so on. Because, as I said, because this I'm focusing on small and medium-sized library, we cannot think about buying, I don't know, 15 or 20 titles to share with our community, because maybe we don't have the budget. But there are many libraries what in other countries that have access to electronic books that can be shared with this library that is putting this program here in the U.S. Many countries, unlike the US, have what we call a national library. And in a national library, they have open, they have like we have here, they have, of course, public catalogs, and they have access to many works of literature. The issue, again, is the translation, because nobody can be expected to read, if we're reading in Spanish literature, to be able to read Spanish, or if we're reading Japanese literature, to be able to read in Japanese or Korean or any other language, okay? The idea is to reach as many people as possible in our community and to have a great summertime reading and sharing and what we have learned. And if we have members of the community that community from Spain or from Japan or from Korea, whichever place we are exploring, and they can come up and probably do a talk, or we can share some recipes, or we can do some theater, or enjoying a very good Korean or Mexican or Spanish food. That will be incredible, because that will enhance uh, this this opportunity to share cultures. So first, so it's not any, my idea is not anymore like an individual reader's advisory consultation, one on one. That also is very important. I'm not saying that that's not important for a library. We have to do that. But the idea is that we can have a program where we can share those that new literature to a larger audience. Okay, and so in this case, well, we have to select before we do anything. We have to select our titles. We have to select translations. We have to select formatting. it can be audiobooks, so it can be printed books, it can be electronic books. They have to be accessible because we don't want to get into develop a program that then we cannot uh, uh, deploy. We don't want to plan something that we cannot deploy because we don't have the funding. So looking for access to those resources is very important. As we all know, information is very costly. But I think if we establish that connection with other libraries around the world and with universities and other cultural institutions that are present in those countries, we will be able to access those great works of arts. Translation is very important. We have to make sure that we can get the best translation possible. Each work of each book, fiction, non-fiction, will have several translations, and what we are trying to do, because that's what we aim at, is to have a program with a high level of quality. So being able to find a great translation, it's the key too. Okay. Uh, then we have to think about why, if we want to get funding, it's probably very important to explain why do we want to have such a program. As I said, my first reason, my personal reason, is because I would enjoy reading texts from other cultures which I'm not familiar with, and probably I will never have the means to visit those countries. So I want to get familiar because I want to see what they are reading. And this is, by the way, this could apply to music too. I haven't, I know very little, for example, about Japanese music or about Syrian music or about German music. Other than, of course, the great classical music, but something popular, I have no idea. So in this case, of course, we're talking about libraries, we're talking about texts, we're talking about reading, we're talking about listening. So we can combine reading with music, uh, with some other form, artistic form, or like I said, enjoying the dishes that come from that country. That will provide a great experience. And every year we can visit another place, we can visit another continent, we can visit another culture. I think that would be a great a program that a library could have. So the idea, again, on this trip or traveling that we're going to take this year is to is to talk about how do we do that. And for so I will be talking in more detail about selecting titles. How do we go about that? I already provide some general ideas about talking to experts, talking to other libraries to see what's available, to see if we can get a loan from libraries right here in the US for bigger systems. If we have if we could have electronic access. If that is not possible, then we should do we should communicate and establish connections with the libraries, some other libraries around the world that can provide us with those resources. We should talk to members of the community who are familiar with that culture because they have family roots or they come from that culture. We should talk to university experts who can help us look for those best translations and best sources. So there are many things that we can consider. I don't think this is an easy task. I don't think this is, if we want to be successful and we want to have a program with quality, we have to plan for all of this. And then we will have that reading experience that may take a month or 2 months, whatever we plan for, whatever we have funding for. I think that's a very that could be a program that would be very successful because my idea of of a public library, as I always mention, is the library have to go out of the building, of the physical building. I know when we think about libraries in a traditional way, we're thinking about like a physical building with a collection of books and other materials there and other sources, and that's what a library is. But a library also we can if we use the library well, we can travel around the world with the idea of having a library sharing that world narrative. I remember my own experience as a child many, many years ago when me and my brother got sick. We had a flu. I don't remember what flu it was, but it was in the late 60s or early 70s. So during the summertime, we were at home and we couldn't go out because we weren't feeling well and we were contagious and we had to be quarantined at home. And what my brother and I did with following my mother's advice, we didn't have many books or anything, but we have an encyclopedia, a printed encyclopedia. So every week or every day, I don't remember very well, we travel to a different country. And of course, my mother helped us designing some costumes and dress as a person from that country and trying to mimic like the language. And then would find some readings in the encyclopedia and learn a little bit about the culture of that country. And for me, that was a great summer. Was a summer of discovery. It was a summer. I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I still remember that because for me it was like traveling to different countries while staying at home in quarantine because we were sick. Well, I want to bring that illusion to everybody with a program that can be sponsored by a public library, by a small or medium-sized library, where this year, for example, we will go to Spain here in the library, but we will travel with our imagination to Spain, to Seville, to Barcelona, to Galicia, and we would read some splendid works of literature from those places. Next year, we probably select, okay, let's go to Japan, and we will experience some Japanese music, some Japanese food, and some Japanese text to reading books and so on. And I think everybody who participates in those programs will be richer, we'll be able to understand much better other people's, other communities, and we'll have an experience just like I did when I was a little kid, when I was sick. In this case, of course, nobody's going to be sick. It's going to be great sharing. And if we have people in the community who are familiar with that culture, it will be even a more wonderful experience because we can have talks, we can have questions, we can have dialogues, we can have many things that will be shared with with those members of that community. So, so that's my idea because I still remember with such a love and and that year when we couldn't go out of to the street to play during the summertime, but we were able to visit with our imagination different cultures. We didn't have the resources to have books, or we didn't have the internet, we didn't have anything. Nowadays, with this wonderful world of information technologies that we have, how can we not share and learn from other cultures? Oh, we can see videos. We can select videos, and we can have movies, and maybe we read a fiction novel, and we can see a show, a television show, or a movie based on that novel. and then we can discuss it. So it's a total experience. What I'm looking for is that the library can have a total experience for the community. Again, this is not easy. This is going to take me some time I'm writing the outline right now of each step. And then during this year, we're going to develop the strategy. We're going to develop the manual. We're going to see how we're going to do it. Okay. I already have tried to expand then that idea in terms of Latin American narrative. But because I want my manual to serve to be able to be used to disseminate any world literature, is not going to be focused on Latin American culture. It's going to be focused on the idea that with in the public library, in the U.S. Public library, we can visit other cultures. We can become familiar with other cultures. We can understand different paradigms, different ways of seeing life, and we can enjoy that experience. And we don't have to travel uh, to that place because it's maybe too expensive. We don't have the time. But if we have a month or several sessions in which we can meet and we can talk about that culture and we can see a video and we can read a very good novel and we can see a movie and we can listen to music, then and we can have people from that culture sharing with us an afternoon, that will be a great experience. That will be an experience that will expand our horizons, our understanding of the world, and it's something that we make us richer because now we understand other culture. And probably in the future, if you have the time and you have the funding or you have the funds or you have the money, you can go and visit that culture far away from your home. But it's not necessary to do. It's something that we can do here in our small and medium-sized library in the US, in rural libraries. That could be a great program for adolescents and adults, and for kids too, of course. But kids have their own reading program, right? And that we almost every library has that in the US. But I think we need more programs with that focus. Because at the end, what do we want? We want people to enjoy their experience in this world, right? And this is a huge world in which we know very little. So one way to know this world better is through reading and experiencing music, food, and enjoying the company of people from other places. That is my idea. That is the idea of the manual. I'm really invested in this idea because I think it can also make the library again, as it was in the past and it still is, but a very popular institution. Because the library is an educational institution, of course, but it's also an institution for enjoyment. It's an institution in which you want to be there, and we can bring our adolescents back to the library because that's another thing that I see when I talk to librarians. Kids go to the library, and older adults go to the library and adults go to use the computers and so on, check out books, circulation, all of that, and they do reference consultations and things like that. If we want to read or watch a movie, perfect. But what about bringing those adolescents back to the library and make them be part of the library community? Because in the end, public libraries are funded by the public. So we need to be relevant. We need to offer a different programs that will make everybody, all the members of the community invested in that institution. As I call it, the American Library is the most democratic institution of the world, or of the US. I don't want to be exaggerating something that I don't know, But to me, in all the time that I have been uh, working as a librarian and studying librarianship and teaching librarianship, I'm impressed of the American library system, especially the American public library system. I mentioned before that in other countries they have national libraries, and public libraries are state funded. Here, of course, libraries have some funding from the state, from some funding from the federal government, some funding from other private and public organizations, but it's mostly a funding by the public, and that makes a big difference. Libraries here have to respond to the public, okay, to address information needs of that public. And I think this could be a good program to remind everybody in our community the importance of having that community, the importance of supporting that library that is bringing joy and education to all the members of that community. Okay, that's all for this week. Thank you so much. This is Conversations on Reference, and my name is Simon Aristeguieta. Thank you.